guys, welcome back to the channel. As you can see from the title, background, and thumbnail, we are talking about the latest end of the movie blockbuster, End of Oak Street. So this is one of those films, it's kind of been quietly on my radar. You know, it's one of those films where I'm like, I was interested to see it for sure. It has dinosaurs in it, fucking Anne Hathaway, Obi-Wan Kenobi himself, Ewan McGregor, and the trailers look like a fucking good time, honestly. It's just, I'm coming to this late because I had this whole setup in PC. I picked the busiest fucking weekend to try to do all this shit. I had D23 going on, the new Travis Barker documentary, X-Men 97 just wrapped up. This movie came out, and I decided, hey, perfect fucking weekend to change your setup and get a new PC. So, sorry again. Sorry for the late video on this one. But I did finally go see this yesterday, and I have some thoughts. So, just get into what I loved first and foremost about this movie. I loved that we're back after Jurassic Park being the only thing in the mainstream media in terms of dinosaur content. I mean, I know we have like Primitive War that came out about a year or so ago, but it didn't do exactly what I think people wanted that movie to do for the dinosaur genre. This film actually showed dinosaurs can be fucking scary again. And I loved that part. I loved that we finally got the concept that Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom left us on of being, hey, dinosaurs can be fucking scary when they're in our world. You know, I haven't watched a Jurassic Park film since Fallen Kingdom because I did not like Fallen Kingdom whatsoever, but I like the premise of like, hey, dinosaurs in our world. And then I heard in Dominion, they just kind of did that for like 10 minutes and then fucked off to some bugs. I'm like, okay, whatever. So I didn't even care to go see the latest Jurassic World movie from last year. I'm done with the Jurassic Park franchise because of the simple fact that they're not doing what this movie did, which is make dinosaurs fucking scary again. I loved that part. Again, I've been wanting a movie like this with the Jurassic Park franchise for so long. I'm so happy that this film finally delivered. You know, you get these, and I would say they're more realistic dinosaurs. You know, they add feathers and stuff on them. I know the more and more things that come out nowadays about dinosaurs is they actually have this like feather-like texture to them. And I appreciate that little detail. It makes them different from the dinosaurs in like Jurassic Park and other films. But I just loved the raw nature of these dinosaurs. You know, there's this big giant fucking dinosaur that just walks through the downtown area that's just like constantly wrecking houses and shit. And I love that like none of them are cute and cuddly. There's no dinosaur like Blue from Jurassic World that's like, oh, he's the nice dinosaur. No, they're all here to fucking eat you. They're all here to kill you. And I love that part. And I loved how for like the first little bit, you know, when they got portaled to the dinosaur era, I love how they kept them in the shadows for a little bit. I love how you only saw like their little tail. You know, I love how you only saw like their eyeball in the bushes and shit. Like they kept them in the shadows until the shit went down. And I love that part. I love how they kept the dinosaurs mysterious until, you know, we get a little bit more of them in the film. Particularly this one little T-Rex sequence. That is the shit I've been missing in the Jurassic World franchise, is actually being scared to fight a T-Rex. You know, when you have this little family, Anne Hathaway, Ewan McGregor, and they barely have any supplies. They have a baseball bat and some fucking water balloons, and they're going up against a goddamn T-Rex. They're terrified. And I love that because when you see the Jurassic World franchise, and you just got Chris Pratt on his little bike, meow, and he's like not even fucking scared of the T-Rex. It just kind of sucks the tension out of the room. It's like, okay, whatever, you know. So I loved the dinosaurs in this film. I also love the sci-fi of this film. You know, this is a J.J. Abrams movie. You know, this is the guy who brought us Super 8, who brought us Cloverfield. You know, movies that are very Spielberg-esque. And this film is so Spielberg-esque. You know, it takes place in the 80s. They don't really tell you the time period until like the end of the film, 1982 to be specific. But I love the 80s feel of it. You know, even though I loved Disclosure Day, I loved that film earlier from this year. This feels more Spielberg than a Spielberg film does. And in some aspects, people would say that's a disappointment. People would say that sucks for for Disclosure Day. I think it's cool that we can have a Spielberg movie that doesn't feel like a Spielberg movie and then a non-Spielberg movie that feels like a Spielberg movie. So you kind of get, you know, your cake and eat it too. But yeah, this just reeks with 80s, just reeks with it, you know. But it's not like a Stranger Things whatever. We got reference Madonna, we got reference Alf, we got to reference this. It's 80s coded in the sense of how they dress, how they talk, how everything feels. You know, this family, Anne Hathaway and Ewan McGregor and all them, this family feels like a family that's like plucked out of their sitcom from the 80s. This feels like such a sitcom-y family. And I love that aspect. You know, one of my favorite shows of all time is Full House. I loved watching that when I grew up. I loved also watching, you know, shows like Family Matters and stuff. Like I was a big 80s sitcom kid, even though I'm a 2000s kid. I loved watching 80s sitcoms. So it was nice to kind of feel that, you know, before we're starting into the crazy dinosaur shit. I loved seeing the little family dynamic of like, you know, the son and the daughter and how they have like little fights, but they're not like, you know, stereotypical fights between brothers and sisters that are just these little like arguments, little picking on, the mom and dad being the stereotypical family, mom and dad, mom does this and dad does that, but of course they changed it up a little bit, and I appreciated that. But no, I loved the vibe of this film. It's not too 80s to the sense of like we're beating you over the head with it, but it's 80s enough to where it's welcoming. It's a welcoming feeling. Speaking of the family, I've already talked about them twice. I loved everybody here. I loved this cast of family, starting with Anne Hathaway. I loved her character. She's on a fucking spree this year with Devil May Prada to The Odyssey to this film to Mother Mary. I think she has another film coming out later this year. This girl is working, and she is a good actress in anything she does. You would read this on paper as like, oh, it's just the stereotypical mom having to save her family from dinosaurs, and you would probably get the most generic performance out of that from somebody else. But Anne Hathaway acts like she's in The Odyssey, like she is giving it her all. There is these sequences where she is screaming and yelling, beating these dinosaurs, or just straight up having a mental breakdown, and it's just, you're like, girl, your performance is like at a 20 and this film is a 15. Like, you're killing it right now. You are killing it. Did you just get off the set from The Odyssey and still have Nolan in your ear talking? Because you are giving a performance, for this little dinosaur thriller film. You're giving a performance. So I thought she did great in the film. I loved her. Ewan McGregor, I think he's great in everything. I mean, he's Obi-Wan fucking Kenobi, but he is great in anything I've ever seen him in. And he plays this stereotypical dad, who's just trying to make ends meet, who's trying to provide for his family. Him and Anne Hathaway kind of have a little bit of a rocky situation. They obviously they love each other, but they're having complications, like any couple does. They're having disagreements about how to raise the kids, or having different agreements on how to go about life. They love each other, but they're also their relationships in the rocks. And I think he plays that very well, where Anne Hathaway's always stressing about stuff, always worrying about the kids. And he's just a very laid back father. He's just like, hey, let the kid have his dog, let the girl do what she wants. Like, he's just a very laid back father. And I think he plays that very well, and especially when we get to the later in the film, when the dinosaurs actually are here and we're in that section, I think he steps up as like this protector role, which is kind of cool to see. A little kind of wimpish father who's just very easygoing, lets people walk all over him, to now he's this protector guy. He's, kind of the man now of the family. And I like seeing that for Ewan McGregor. Again, I thought the kids here were great. I'm not very familiar with their work. I know the one kid, the little boy, he was in Sweet Tooth on Netflix. I never watched it, but I heard he was really good in that. There's never been anything I've watched that he's in that I can recall off the moment, but he's really good in this film too. You got some of the side characters here. You got like this little neighbor who's a fucking asshole to, the family here. And I thought he was fun. I've seen him in things too. He's always one of those actors that just comes in. You're like, hey, it's that guy. And then you don't see him again until another movie where you're like, hey, it's that guy. So I thought he was fine here. And of course, I would call him a side character because he's throughout the film. This little dog called Starbuck, he was just the cutest fucking thing. I love dogs. I could be having the shittiest day in the world, and I see a dog, my day is instantly better. I love that fucking dog. That dog was so fucking cute. And I loved how there was like a little bit of a reoccurring plot point with the dog, Starbuck. I love that. I thought that was really cool. Honestly, this is gonna be one of those films I don't have a lot of negatives to say. It's not like one of those films where I'm walking away being like, fuck this. I actually had a really good time with this film, but I did have some nitpicks. One of the major nitpicks I had was they didn't really explain the whole, and this ain't spoilers, you can see it in the trailer. They don't really explain how the family gets teleported back to the dino age. They just kind of chalk that up to, okay, it happened and that was it. And I'm like, I really wish we'd have had a little bit of an explanation, some sort of theory. I know the biggest thing going into this film, everybody was like, this is a Cloverfield sequel. This is a secret Cloverfield sequel. And I can see the parallels. I can see why people would connect those dots. Watching the film, I think that actually would have helped if they did connect it to a Cloverfield sequel, because of the fact that it leaves that door open where they don't explain how they got teleported. And I think if you would have connected it to the Cloverfield universe, it would have actually explained it very well, being like, oh, well, now I know why they got teleported, because the Cloverfield, So I think that would have helped, but because they didn't connect it to a Cloverfield film, it kind of made you scratch your head and go, well, then if this ain't connected to Cloverfield, then what the hell was that? So I think that was a missed opportunity where they could have maybe connected it, or maybe did some sort of little connection that would establish it. I don't know. I just feel like the major plot of the movie is they get teleported to a different time period, and they never explain how or why they get teleported to a different time period. Just thought that was a little bit underwhelming. I was like, okay, I can bypass it because the rest of the movie's good, but okay. Another little, I would say, like nitpick I have is the ending, and I'm not going to spoil it, but the ending is one of those films where I'm like, okay, because the movie is very dark, like surprisingly dark. There's a lot of moments in the film that I was kind of like, oh shit, like they actually went there. There's one point in the film where a major thing happens to the family. And from then on, I was like, oh shit, they had the balls to do that. They actually had the balls to go there. And I was just like, what is this third act going to be like? If they have the balls to go there, what is this film going to end like? Is it going to end in this like crazy cliffhanger? Is it going to end in this crazy catastrophic way? How is it going to end? And I thought the way they ended it, while it was bittersweet and it kind of was like, okay, that makes sense for the plot to go there. I thought because the movie had such balls and it had such a dark edge to it throughout the whole film, with the dinosaurs, with the family dynamic, with certain people in the film, I thought we were going to end in a very ballsy way of being like, that's our film, fuck you kind of way. And it kind of ended in a, oh, okay, that makes sense that it goes there, but I just was really expecting this like, this of an ending and be like, fuck. Because, when that major turn point happened with the family, that left me with a gut punch of like, oh shit, we actually went there. Okay. Where the ending didn't leave me like that. That plot point did, that the little turning point of the story did, but not the ending. And I wish it was reversed. I wish the ending had that gut punch of like, oh shit, we went there. That's crazy. And it didn't. So that was a little disappointed in that aspect, but still, it didn't take away from the film whatsoever. So yeah, guys, I know this is about a week late, and I'm sure you probably heard it, but yeah, The End of Oak Street is fucking really, really good. Honestly, it's going to be one of those films I feel like is going to slip underneath the radar because this is towards the end of the summer blockbuster era. So I feel like a lot of people aren't really going to check it out until it gets to streaming and VOD. But it's just a really fucking good time, honestly. Like I had really not like, I didn't have like the highest hopes going into this film. I really was just like, let me go in and see a dinosaur movie and see if I like it. Maybe it's going to be like Jurassic Park. Maybe it's not. And it's not at all. It's definitely its own thing. And I'm glad to see that we're going to have maybe this film, will turn the point of dinosaurs and be like, they need to be scary again. Fucking do that again. So yeah, guys, you guys let me know down below, what'd you think of this film? Did you love this film? Did you hate this film? Where you land on the spectrum of this film? You guys jump in the comments. You let me know. Remember, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.